What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tirafon Orbital. So this is going to be a little bit more of an in-depth walkthrough on an install commission that I recently completed on a fully one-off custom hilt from Nevin at Space Junk Sabers. This is a CFX build, custom chassis, crystal reveal. Let's get into it, right? So, no stranger to Space Junk Sabers. I say this time and time again. I feel very, very lucky and fortunate that I get to put my hands on so many unique hilts. I am a huge fan of one-off hilts. I say it all of the time. So, it's just, you know, it's cool getting to see some of the stuff that some of these sabersmiths create. And Nevin definitely has a unique aesthetic that I really like. So, this is an exposed crystal Apocalypse scrap. Now, I've done an Apocalypse scrap from Nevin before for someone. So this is a second Apocalypse scrap, and it's really, really cool looking. So there's an actual like rifle heatsink on this thing that's been heat stained. I really, really dig some of the external greeblies that have been put into this. So we'll talk about all of that in the up and close. But before we do that, let's come into Fusion because I did do a custom chassis for this install. So we'll go over that in detail and then we'll do a demo, right? So let's come into Fusion. So here is the chassis that I designed for this hilt. So this is a simple static chassis. This nipple up here is what makes a connection to the upper part of the hilt. It is secured with a set screw, okay? Completely unnecessary greeblies along each side of the chassis. Okay, I really, really filled this thing up. I've said this before, I'm getting to the point now where I try to fill every available real estate with some sort of groove or greebly because it just takes the buff and rub so much better when I finish the chassis. So I did put Tirafon Orbital and Arabesh down here. Space Junk Sabers is up top. So this is, as I mentioned, a CFX build. I feel like everyone knows my my feelings on CFX. Great board, very robust board. In my opinion, it is a pain in the butt to install and design chassis for. So with the CFX board, it's got a bigger footprint than the Profi board. It's got huge like resistors and very strangely placed pads. So it's just a different animal, really. You know, I get, it might sound like I hate on CFX a lot, and it's just kind of become a thing in the community that I just hate CFX. It's not true. I'm not as schooled in CFX installs as I am in Profi. I just really, really prefer Profi. I prefer living in code. So that's my spiel, right? So that being said, with each CFX build I do, I feel a little bit more, I feel my CFX power growing, okay? CFX does sit in here. It does slide up underneath this lip. It is press fit. The client did request to have SD card access a priority. So this CFX sits SD side up. I am part of the SD side up club as well. I prefer having the SD on top. I just feel like it looks better. There is an indentation for the USB. The board will flip up if you want to get to the USB port. It is press fit in here, but I did put a very small dab of E6000 on each side just to kind of keep it secure, right? There is a kill switch in here. CFX, there's two schools of thought with kill switches on CFX. CFX has a great deep sleep. I really actually do love that about the CFX board. So putting a kill switch really is not entirely necessary on a CFX build, but I've just gotten to the point in all of my designing that I put them on every install where space allows. Okay, so that's where that kill switch sits. Along the bottom, we have a 28mm bass speaker from Smuggler's Outpost, and that's it, right? Nice long-winded explanation on a chassis. So let's come up top. Here is the hilt. This is the Post Apocalyptic Scrap. It's a mouthful. I'm surprised I didn't trip over my words. So really, really nice knurled grip here. We've got a modular pommel. So this pommel does unscrew. Grip does unscrew. We've got two momentary brass switches. These are from Phil Guinness at Calminian Customs. Love these switches. Luckily for me as the installer, Nevin from Space Junk Sabers typically includes these with his commissions. So love these. I actually, every time I have space on my personal builds, I use these switches, excuse me, from Phil, right? So making our way up, we've got an exposed crystal here. This is an exposed crystal chamber. There is a real quartz point in here. I did light this quartz point from the bottom with 1 neopixel. There's no hole in the top to have top and bottom shine through, but there is a single neopixel underneath. This is wired up to L2, I believe, on the CFX board, so it is a separate blade. See, I still speak in Profi, right? So that is independent. There's a really cool external steel flex here that's been heat stained. I actually almost used this as my wire channel, but I decided against that because there was room behind the crystal chamber to route my wires. I just thought it would be cool to have actual wires coming through this, but maybe not a good idea, because if this gets hit or something, we don't want those wires to be pinched or anything like that, right? So still a really cool greebly and aesthetic. Making our way around back. So this is that rifle heatsink I was talking about. I actually reached out to Nevin when I did the last post-apocalyptic scrap, and I said, hey man, where did you make this from? Like, what piping did you get that from? And he said, it's an actual rifle. It's from an actual rifle. So I love seeing that. It's perfect application. It's steel, so it's been heat stained, obviously. No brainer there, okay? Another grenade section, or heat sink, rather, up top here. And I do actually recognize this upper part. This is from a Scrapflex, I believe, okay? And that's it. I actually, for a second, I thought this red greebly that's holding that steel flex in place, I actually thought this was a grounding lug, but it's not. It doesn't have a set screw in the center. So again, just another piece that was probably a found object that Nevin incorporated into the build. And I love that about these one-offs, okay? So let's talk about how to use this, guys. So this is a tight grip. You want to unscrew your grip. Here's your chassis, okay? So spring side is your negative. Here is that CFX board. Kill switch is here. Spring side is negative, so put your battery in the tray. You won't be able to hide from me forever. So I already had that on. If you want to, if you don't hear an audible cue, hit that kill switch. Now hand it over. Okay, and we're ready to go. So let's put our grip on. Again, this is a tight. Whoops. So it's a tight squeeze in this grip. So you want to kind of get it started. Don't force the grip on, and then screw it in all the way till it stops. Okay. So there we go. Let's come down to the bottom. All right. So if you are looking at the hilt, the switch to your right is the main. The switch to your left is aux. There's that exposed crystal. We've got a lit PCB emitter. This is from Stock Custom Works. The client actually supplied both the PCB emitter and the speaker, which was very handy. Right. So that's it. Oh, see? I'm so used to Profi. So let's put a blade in it. Okay. So this is a 1-inch blade holder. There is a very handy knurled thumb screw here. I don't know where this thumb screw is from. This is another thing that I really love about one-off hilts. It's just probably a found object, and Nevin used it as a thumb screw. So anyway, put your blade in, make sure it's resting on those PCB pins, and you're ready to go. It's heavy. A lot of steel in this, I feel. I feel like there's a lot of steel. So I put
sound bank selection.
I put my
Ben Kenobi? Hello there.
I put my CFX install config on this, but obviously to the client, if you want to edit that, you just pop out your SD card and do what you need to do. Right? God, such a great hilt.
Sound bank selection.
Ben Kenobi?
My name is Toby, and I'm a Jedi! I'm TOB1. This is a call to all Jedi. If you can hear me, report in.
Love that blue. It does feel good though. It's heavy, but it's a great feeling, Hilt. All right. Whoops. So, one thing I've noticed about the differences between CFX and Profi, and it's very subtle. And every time I mention this to somebody in the community, they think I'm crazy, but I feel like the blade animations on CFX are just smoother than Profi. It's really, really subtle, but definitely noticeable to my eyes, okay? And I think that's because of the way that CFX handles animating the NeoPixels. I think, and again, I'm making an assumption here, but I think that CFX uses bitmaps to create animations, and Profi doesn't. So I'm thinking that might be the reason why. But yeah, it's very subtle. It's very subtle to me, anyhow.
Sound bank selection.
Some people might think I'm crazy, but I definitely notice it, right? Great Hilt. Great Hilt. All right. So that's it, right? Without me wasting anyone else's time. Thank you to the client for your patience and trusting me with this install. To the viewers, if anyone has any questions about my chassis design or any questions at all, please don't be a stranger. And thank you for the support. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Thanks for watching, everybody.